You're watching the latest on Free Press Journal. I'm Aria Rahman Ali. The military operations chiefs of India and Pakistan are set to discuss the next steps for the two countries as a ceasefire returned calm to the border for the very first time. There were no reports of explosions or projectiles overnight after some initial ceasefire violations. This is confirmed by the Indian Army that it was the first peaceful night in recent days along the border. Although some schools remain closed, peace is set to return is the hope that is now being expressed. Saturday's ceasefire in this region, which was first announced by US President Donald Trump, followed 4 days of intense firing and diplomacy and pressure from Washington DC. So India's military has now sent a hotline message to Pakistan about the previous day's ceasefire violations, flagging New Delhi's intent to respond to further such incidents. A top Indian Army officer has confirmed that the message has been sternly conveyed. A spokesman from Pakistan's military, however, denied any violations. The latest on this is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a meeting with top ministers and military officials at his residence on the current tension between India and Pakistan. Earlier, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri confirmed that the Pakistan DGMO, Major General Kashif Abdullah, called India's DGMO on the 10th of May, and it was agreed between them that firing at land, air and sea would be halted after days of skirmish. Indian Army also confirmed in a statement that this was the first calm night, as I mentioned, in these areas since the standoff between India and Pakistan began after the launch of Operation Sindoor on the 7th of May. So, will the ceasefire hold up? Remains a big question. The army said that no incident of firing was reported along the line of control. This comes after explosions were heard in Srinagar and border areas of Punjab and Rajasthan just hours after the ceasefire between the two countries were announced on Saturday, throwing the entire issue of ceasefire into a quandary. Around 40 Pakistani security personnel killed as per the Indian Army press briefing on Sunday, and at least 30 to 40 personnel of Pakistan's security forces have been killed at the line of control between 7th and 10th May. These are Indian Army figures. Further, Indian strikes at 9 terror camps killed over 100 terrorists, including those involved in the Pulwama attack. The questions that are now being raised around the ceasefire and the mediation are whether US actually intervened and that ensured the ceasefire. Now, there are of course conflicting reports on this. What many senior leaders are now saying that sure, there were discussions with the foreign ministers of various countries including United States, but that does not mean that US can be given full credit. Now, this is tricky also because India does not believe Kashmir is an issue that should be internationalized or whether there should be an international intervention in the Kashmir issue. Therefore, it does not suit India to say that US intervention was what caused this ceasefire, because India is not in favor of making it an international issue. It remains a bilateral issue for India. It's an issue of Kashmir being an integral part of India, and India being a sovereign nation would not like any foreign mediation in this matter. But it does suit Pakistan because for Pakistan, they are dependent on the United States financially, and a lot of it therefore comes from the fact that this dependence leads them to laud any efforts made by the United States to intervene in the India-Pakistan issue. They would rather prefer a US intervention. So to that extent, Donald Trump's statement that it has taken long discussions overnight with both parties that led to this ceasefire is something that has to be taken a little cautiously by one and all, because this is not something that the Indian authorities would like to confirm or has indeed confirmed. As per the Indian defense sources, it was the talks between the DGMOs of both countries. In fact, the Pakistani DGMO made the call for ceasefire, and that is what led to the ceasefire agreement. Now, whether there was international pressure on Pakistan to make that phone call is still in the realm of speculation. But as of now, what we do know is the military chiefs of both countries have arrived at this sort of a truce, which everyone hopes will hold on from now on.